Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a hidden everyday habit that is secretly destroying relationships, and more importantly, we're going to talk about exactly how to stop it.
So, think about this for a second. Is it just an innocent complaint, or are you slowly destroying your relationship? Look, we all know what everyday bickering looks like, right? One of you is running late because of traffic, and suddenly, bam, it's a massive fight. Or someone leaves dirty dishes in the sink, again, and it turns into this full-blown character assassination. We usually just brush these moments off as, normal relationship friction. But what if this constant judgment is actually a terminal diagnosis for your relationship waiting to happen?
The stakes here are absolutely crucial. 90%. Just let that number sink in. According to renowned relationship experts Dr. John and Julie Gottman, who, by the way, spent decades studying couples in their famous Love Lab, they can predict whether a couple will stay together or get divorced with 90% accuracy. And honestly, the craziest part, there is no way you'd guess this, but they can make this prediction just by observing a couple interacting for a mere 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That means the way we argue reveals literally everything about the ultimate survival of our relationship.
Let's move on and see how this builds. All of this everyday friction escalates into what the Gottmans call the Four Horsemen. It's a pretty brilliant, if somewhat terrifying metaphor for the medical progression of a dying marriage. Just like the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse depict the end of times, these four communication styles basically predict the end of a relationship. We're talking about criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And the whole catastrophic cascade, it always begins with the very first symptom: criticism.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at the psychological difference between a complaint and a criticism, because they are definitely not the same thing. A complaint is actually completely healthy. It focuses on a specific behavior and expresses a positive need. Criticism, on the other hand, well, that's an ad hominem attack on your partner's core identity. It's when we start weaponizing those absolute words like always or never. You aren't just saying they did a specific thing wrong, you're essentially dismantling their whole being.
Let's look at a super relatable household example to see this contrast in action. A healthy complaint sounds something like this. Hey, there are dirty dishes in the sink. I really need you to clean them. Simple, direct, behavior-focused, right? But a criticism? That sounds like, you never do what you say. You are incredibly lazy. Ouch. You can instantly feel the difference there, can't you? The exact second you attack their character, you instantly put your partner in a defensive war mode. You set the stage for a major battle, not a resolution.
And there's actually a deeply biological reason why this happens so fast. Clinical expert Tatkin has this incredible insight. He says, the brain's wired first and foremost for war rather than love. Think about it. Our brains are essentially evolutionary survival machines. They naturally, constantly scan the environment for threats and mistakes. So when we feel annoyed or stressed out, our brain's default setting is to search for someone else's transgressions to blame. It's a deeply ingrained instinct that we literally have to actively fight against.
Now, what's really interesting about this next concept is a challenge proposed by psychologist Dr. Neil Lavender. It's a strict 1-week test. The question is, can you completely stop criticizing your spouse for just 7 days? Dr. Lavender notes that for some people, chronic criticism functions almost exactly like a literal addiction. They use criticism to regulate their own negative feelings. If you actually try this test and find it totally impossible to stop, it reveals that the criticism might be deeply rooted in your own past, often even childhood trauma, rather than just your partner's current behavior.
To see how this plays out in real time, let's walk through a quick case study from emotionally focused therapy. Let's call them George and Beth. So, George secretly feels unimportant because Beth is always busy. But instead of just saying, hey, I miss you, George criticizes Beth, just trying to get her attention. While Beth, feeling attacked, immediately becomes defensive. George then feels unheard, so what does he do? He escalates his criticism, and around they go. It's this endless, completely exhausting negative cycle where the true vulnerable feelings are just totally buried under constant judgment.
And if that cycle of criticism goes untreated, it inevitably paves the way for the absolute deadliest of the Four Horsemen: contempt. Contempt is dark, guys. It's when you hold your partner in a negative light from a position of moral superiority. We're talking sarcasm, eye-rolling, name-calling, or even that sort of hostile, biting humor. It goes way beyond just attacking their character. It sends this devastating message that they are entirely worthless and despised.
The research on the severity of contempt is genuinely terrifying. According to Dr. Gottman's research, contempt is the single greatest predictor of divorce. Full stop. But wait, it goes even further than the emotional bond. The research actually shows that couples who are contemptuous of each other suffer from more infectious illnesses. I mean, think about that. It destroys the safe bond of your relationship and physically compromises your immune system. It is, quite literally, toxic.
Okay, take a breath. I know that's the terminal diagnosis and it sounds incredibly bleak, but don't worry because the research also gives us the cure. Every single one of these horsemen has a proven, actionable antidote. So how do we actually fix this? How do we bypass that totally natural warring instinct we talked about earlier and access the loving brain instead? Let's dive into the actual clinical antidotes.
So the crucial point is addressing the first horseman, criticism. The antidote here is called the gentle startup. This requires you to complain without blame. Instead of launching right into a you statement that attacks your partner, you start with an I statement. You focus on your own emotions. I am feeling overwhelmed, followed by a positive need. I really need some help with the house today. See what that does? You are giving your partner a chance to step up, to shine, and to help you, rather than backing them into a corner and forcing them to defend themselves.
Next, we have to tackle the natural reaction to criticism, defensiveness. Look, defensiveness is really just playing the innocent victim and trying to reverse the blame. It's not my fault we're late because of traffic. You always take forever to get ready. Sound familiar? The powerful antidote here is taking responsibility. Now, actually scratch that. You don't have to take the blame for the whole thing, but you absolutely must admit fault for at least part of the conflict. Simply saying, you know what, you're right, I definitely could have started getting ready earlier. That tiny admission, it instantly stops the conflict from escalating. It totally disarms the entire argument.
Then we have the reaction to contempt, which is stonewalling. This happens when a partner completely tunes out, withdraws, or just entirely shuts down. But it's so vital to understand that this isn't just them ignoring you out of spite. It's an involuntary, biological fight-or-flight response. They are experiencing what's called intense physiological flooding. Their heart rate is skyrocketing. Stress hormones are just flooding their body. They literally cannot process the argument rationally anymore.
Because stonewalling is a very real physical reaction, the scientifically proven antidote requires a physical reset. And the magic number for that reset is 20. You must take a strict 20-minute break for physiological self-soothing, not 5 minutes, 20. You have to step away and do something completely distracting. Read a magazine, listen to music, just do something to actively lower that heart rate. The body absolutely needs that time to drop back down to a normal baseline before you can return and have any sort of productive conversation.
Now, treating these symptoms right in the middle of an argument is great, for sure. But how do we prevent the horsemen from showing up in the first place? Let's revisit Dr. Stan Tatkin's research for a second. He advocates for actively fostering what he calls the couple bubble. This is like an intimate, private world where both partners consistently reassure each other that the relationship is a secure, safe haven. It's essentially the ultimate shield against our brain's natural instinct for war. Because when you truly know your partner has your back, judgment just has absolutely no room to grow.
And to build that bubble, merely avoiding negativity just isn't going to cut it. You have to proactively defeat contempt by building a solid culture of appreciation and respect. The Gottman motto for this is small things often. It's not about grand, sweeping romantic gestures once a year on Valentine's Day. No, it's about regularly, daily, expressing gratitude. Saying things like, hey, thank you so much for making the coffee, or I really love the way you handled that situation today. You have to consciously, intentionally build up a buffer of positive feelings.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how much positivity you actually need. The Gottmans found what they call the magic ratio. Their research literally proves that for a relationship to thrive, there must be 5 positive interactions to buffer every 1 negative interaction. 5 to 1. If you are constantly depositing into that emotional bank account with small, everyday moments of affection and respect, your relationship can easily weather the occasional withdrawal of a normal argument.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this deeply provocative question to reflect on. Are you building a fortress of love or a courtroom of constant judgment? The daily habits of communication we choose, whether we launch criticisms or intentionally use gentle startups, whether we roll our eyes or consciously express appreciation, literally dictate the survival of our relationships. The antidotes we talked about, they're in your hands right now. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today, and I challenge you to try out the gentle startup the very next time you feel that frustration bubbling up. You've got this. See you next time.